Animation. It's been around for more than a century, and with the help of technology, it has changed in numerous and incredible ways. From simple black and white frame by frame to amazing CGI that we see today. The production of animation has brought entertainment, joy, and the expression of imagination beyond our wildest dreams for society. But how exactly did animation get started, and why is this so commonly used? Was it a specific film, an invention, or an idea? Well, we're about to tell you. This is the history of animation. As we all know, everything that's come into place has to have been started with an idea. So what was the idea or the ideas that sparked the evolution of animation? And when did animation really get started? We asked common people of what they might have thought.
No.
Around the time of Walt Disney.
No, I do not, but I do know that television has overrun it from movie scenes or other shows like cartoons.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe Hammurabi put up his laws like through drawings on stone walls.
Mr. Carroll was actually the closest on being correct. That's right! Animation goes this far back. Egyptians would draw hieroglyphics on the wall, showing a sequence of motion, showing movement, an idea that drawings can be brought to life. It appears that hieroglyphics aren't the only form of ancient motion drawings.
5,200 years ago in Iran, they found an earthen pot with 5 pictures on it in sequence of action.
But it wasn't until June 19th, 1878 that a specific item led to the development of motion pictures.
A gentleman had a bet that a horse's feet went off the ground when running. And so photographers set up cameras at different points and took consecutive photos of the horse running to prove that the horse's feet were all off the ground at one time. They put it together to realize that they could do film, which now they shoot at 24 frames per second.
But what exactly was the very first tool of animation? Well, the very first tool was known as the phankistoscope. The phankistoscope acted as a wheel, and once spun around, you would see animation as if it were real life. Some of these animations were really well done, like the waltzing couple, making the phankistoscope one of the very first and best animation tools. After the phankistoscope, a cleaner version of it, the praxinoscope, was in development. The praxinoscope acts as a much cleaner version of the phankistoscope because it has mirrors on the inside of it. These mirrors, once spun around, copy the images that are on the outside of the praxinoscope to create a looping animation.
In 1999, Disney's movie Tarzan shows a praxinoscope being used by Professor Porter to show Tarzan modern-day animation in the late 1880s.
After the praxinoscope was invented, something came out that would lead to movies that were animations, the Praxinoscope Theater. Released at the end of the 1880s, the Praxinoscope Theater was a combined version of the praxinoscope and the recent projector technologies. What it would basically do is project a hologram that would come out into the theater, creating the first example of animation in movies. We're not done yet though. The zoetrope was also released during the praxinoscope and phankistoscope age. The zoetrope was a third of these machines. It was like a giant cylinder with a cartoon that would go around it. You see, outside it wouldn't look like much, but once you looked inside the little holes, you could see an animation. Some zoetropes are still kept today. One of the most famous of these zoetropes is the Disney Pixar's Toy Story zoetrope. Once going fast enough, a flash will emit, and then the zoetrope will have an animation that kind of looks like stop motion. This can be seen at the Disneyland Resort. We asked some people to know what they knew about the big three, the phankistoscope, the praxinoscope, and the zoetrope. And here's what they said. Now I already know what you're thinking. What about all of our favorite cartoon characters and all of our memorable cartoons? When do they start to come in? Well, they start right about now with Gertie the Dinosaur. The first ever animation that was a huge hit was Gertie the Dinosaur. Gertie the Dinosaur was a series of cartoons, not just one, which made it really unique. It would be played with live action and cartoons. Gertie the Dinosaur would feature sound, however there would be no audio, because it was back before audio could really make it onto the animation films. Gertie was the very first of our cartoon characters, and she really sprung on all of the cartoon characters, from Mickey Mouse to Donald Duck, from Betty Boop to Popeye. Doesn't matter, it all began with one little dinosaur named Gertie. There was a major problem though. An animation like this would take months or even a year to make. That was until John Bray came along and he found clear cells. Using clear cells, a background that was still could be made. This would save time and money when making animations. John Bray didn't just do this though. John Bray was also the man to come up with rotoscoping, which is where he would use an animation to make a more realistic looking animation. This would work perfectly with live action and could be used to create cool backgrounds, awesome characters, and really good animations. Now's when cartoons started to come out really good. But instead of this little guy being our first cartoon character, it was actually Felix the Cat. Felix would spawn all kinds of different cartoon characters, like Mickey Mouse, Bugs Bunny, Betty Boop, all of those characters. He was really the turning point for cartoon characters, and in the mischievous way too. Another animator was trying to get popular at this time. This was Walt Disney. Walt Disney had a little rabbit named Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. However, he had to give up Oswald after some lawsuits with some other animating companies. This led to the very first creation of Walt Disney's favorite and most known mascot, Mickey Mouse, in Steamboat Willie. Steamboat Willie was really Walt Disney's starting point, and it led to all the Disney films that we see today. After Mickey and Felix's debuts, other animating companies were in a frenzy to get just as popular. This led to the creation of our favorite cartoon characters, such as Bugs Bunny, Woody Woodpecker, and Betty Boop. Now we asked some people what they thought was the most iconic and who was the first cartoon character, and here's what we got.